Hello there. My name is Dorothy Heathcote and you'll see there are a lot of teachers all here at a meeting with me. And we're here because we're joining in an enterprise which a local hospital have commissioned the school to undertake. The local hospital is part of the Northumbria new hospital building that's being built near Hexham, and all the teachers here are from the Queen Elizabeth High School in Hexham. And everybody's volunteering, and we're trying a whole new form of trying to work on something very genuine, not just for the school, but to make a hospital garden. And the NHS Trust in Northumbria have commissioned us to do this.
Hello, that was Dorothy Heathcote talking in 2001 about a commission model project that she was doing with teachers at Queen Elizabeth High School, the Hexham Hospital Garden Commission. Dorothy was recognised throughout the world as an educator who pioneered ways of using drama as a learning medium. Her work is not just about drama methods. She actually said, "I'm not lobbying for drama. I'm lobbying for better education, but I happen to use drama because it's one of the most flexible tools I have." I often say, if you follow Dorothy's ideas, it will change you as a teacher. And if her ideas were applied in our education system, it would change schooling. It would change our understanding of teaching and learning. So, I'm going to talk today about a system that Dorothy developed called the commission model. And this is a quote from Dorothy. "I have a dream that has not yet been realized. I would like students not to learn what their teachers teach them, but to be people who solve problems in the outside world that their teachers bring to them. The job of school principals should be to go out into the real world and find tasks. I dream of schools working with real tasks rather than learning about things in class. This is actually a radical way of learning. I want students to be citizens of the world." In the commission model, there are two possible types of commission. You can have commissions from outside organisations, as in the Hexham Hospital Garden Commission. Or it might be a commission within the school. For example, the nursery school teachers could commission older children to produce a kind of mat for the children in the nursery to sit on. Dorothy, as her quote indicates, wanted to make children into active citizens. Her argument was that children have been disenfranchised. They've been put into schools and told they will only join the real world when they finish their education and they can get a job and so on. She wanted to get away from what she saw as dummy runs in teaching. And what she meant by that was that, well, often a teacher will say, "You need to learn this because you will need it one day. When you go out of school into the real world, you will need this skill, you will need this knowledge." So it becomes a kind of dummy run for something that you will do later on in life. But in life, in the real world, we learn things because we have an immediate purpose and goal in mind. It might be learning to drive a car, or we might learn a foreign language because we need it for our job. Education in schools takes away that immediate purpose and context. Children are doing things not for a real life purpose, but because teacher wants them to do it. People sometimes ask me what is the difference between the commission model and what's known as design thinking. Design thinking is a method that has been used in schools and is often used especially with older students at university and so on. In this, you might have, for example, a group of students who are working on developing a marketing plan for a business to sell, to market a product. Now, as they work on that project, they are developing the skills of a marketing team, and they may go on, in fact, to become marketing specialists. Now, in the commission model, it's not about developing those kinds of professional skills. It's not what you're trying to teach. You do not develop, for example, the skills of an architect or a landscape designer. In the Hexham Hospital Garden Commission, the children never actually produced a design for a garden. It would involve a complexity of professional skills which they don't have, and you're not trying to teach them that. Instead, they investigated the meaning of gardens for people and how this hospital garden could serve people's needs. Here are Dorothys' notes on the project. She wrote, "On the face of it, this commission from the hospital involves the interested staff and students from the school in planning a garden, a pretty plot of land, to be visited by those involved in contact with the hospital, either as workers, patients, visitors, or healers. I see it as much more than that. I see it as a very real and rich opportunity for the central garden idea to generate an enormous range of ideas and inventive work around the many facets of a public garden in a special place. It would involve a great range of study and expertise in the final publication and presentation to real people who must finance it. There are obvious areas to be studied: social science, climate, plants, the surrounding buildings, the seasons, how it shall be maintained so that it develops and flourishes. But there are many other developments to be considered. What are gardens for? What purposes shall be served? Who will use and benefit from it? So I see it as generating an enormous amount of work related with all the aspects of gardens in healing surroundings, and above all, an opportunity to cross curriculum boundaries and integrate knowledge, which is a key point, because in the commission model, one of the aims is to integrate different subjects, all focused on one central context and goal, in this case, to design a garden. The most important aspects are a genuine purpose, use for all the school work, a requirement to follow through to final publication, a research, practice, and reflective process involving learning how to learn and realizing what is learned. Dorothy insisted, this is a teaching enterprise. It's not just providing a garden. It's realizing what we know because we provided a garden. So learning how to learn is one of the most important features, because we're not just using the children, we're teaching because that's what we are for. So in the Hexham Hospital Garden Commission, the children at the school investigated photosynthesis and sunlight. This was related to the context. They discovered that the garden would be small and would have high walls, and so only certain plants could grow there. And so they needed that knowledge related to that context. They looked at materials, they considered ideas for a memorial, but all the work that they did was always with reference to the idea of a garden for the people. They also explored the garden in imaginative ways, through poetry or short stories. Now there's a question about how is this related to drama? Because Dorothy saw it as a drama form. And yet, of course, there is a real commission and a real client. So how is it drama? Well, I think it goes back to Dorothy's work in drama, in, for example, a system known as Mantle of the Expert, where the children are working with a fictional client and a fictional commission. But it also goes back to Dorothy's idea of drama as a laboratory to explore human behavior. And in the commission model, she saw drama working as a kind of central element that would bring together all the work and bring together the different subjects. Now, drama methods were used directly in, for example, certain episodes where people took on roles. In one case, the children were preparing to go out into the community to interview people for their views on the new garden. Now, in one session, some adults took on roles of local people, each with their own biography and story. The children had to consider how they should talk to these people to find out their views of the garden, but also in a way that would develop a real dialogue between them and not simply be a kind of form of interrogation. So that's a very direct way of using drama in the commission model. Another way that drama is used in the commission model, I think, is in the use of sign. Now, Dorothy took the idea of sign from the theatre because she saw that when we go to see a play, every element in the theatre becomes a sign that we are looking at and interpreting for meaning. So, for example, if a character is wearing a red dress, we look at it and it tells us something about that character. Dorothy saw that this use of sign could be harnessed in the classroom and used for educational purposes to explore meaning. And we can see this use of sign in the Hexham Hospital Garden Commission. Here, in this cue card which she prepared for a talk that she gave, she explains, above all, we can change the room to completely serve the current need, just as a laboratory. This is akin to the stage set, which must permit the suitable action. But we interact with our laboratory, and its shape enlarges and aids and generates our function as thinkers, designers. And you can see here she is stressing sign for significance or significance. So the room, and in Hexham it was a drama space, can be set up as in a lab to conduct, if you like, experiments in human behaviour. This is a letter from Dorothy to Kathy White-Webster, a teacher from the school who worked closely with Dorothy on the project. And she's talking about how the room should be set up. And she says we need a very well-prepared notice to be used each time we meet. It should say Hexham Hospital Garden Commission meeting in progress, and it could be put on the door each time that they have a meeting. She also wants everyone to wear name labels and have a signing in sheet at the door, which should be a significant ritual, she says, at the start of each session. And she's also planning here how the room will be set up to introduce the first task in that day's session, when members of the staff were going to read out some poetic texts they had written about gardens. So a row of chairs for the students was spread out one side of the room, and the staff were seated in a line on the opposite side of the room with their backs to the room, ready to read their texts. So this was very much thinking about changing the space each time so that it then becomes part of the laboratory and part of the theatre of the event. Dorothy said that the commission model ends in some kind of publication or public sharing. In Hexham, this took the form of presentations to the hospital trust, sharing the ideas, sharing the learning, sharing the questions they had about the garden and how it might meet people's needs, not a formal design. And I think this kind of publication, this kind of public sharing is the real outcome, that moment when the children share their learning and consolidate it, realize what they know. Now, we have been working on an Erasmus Plus project on the commission model with partners across Europe. And here are some examples of the projects the partners have been doing. In a school in Turkey, young people were commissioned by the head teacher in the school to produce a magazine about the school that would help new students and their parents to understand what to expect when they come to the school. In the same school, a class set themselves up as a team of doggy guardians. They were commissioned by an animal home to raise money, but also raise awareness of the problem of stray dogs in the country. In Woodrow First School in Redditch in the UK, children were commissioned by the Black Country Living Museum to review their History at Home online resources that were aimed at young people, and to come up with their own ideas for how these resources might be made more accessible and appealing. At the University of Łódź in Poland, students there also worked with the Black Country Museum and gave feedback on the museum's online resources and produced their own History at Home resources about British culture aimed at young people in Poland. In Mittelschule Herrenbach in Augsburg, the children have designed games for refugee children in the community. In all of these projects, teachers and children are making Dorothy's dream a reality. We hope you'll be inspired to do your own commission model projects. You can find more details about the commission model on the website www.mantelnetwork.com, and you can also join our Facebook group, The Commission Model of Teaching. So, thank you very much for listening.